What I've got here is a 98 Honda Firestorm, running pretty rough. So the bike has overheated, and the front cylinder's got good compression, 159, and it's supposed to be 166, and the rear is, well, when I first measured it, it was 60, and when it got up to temperature, I mean, I had it running for a little while on choke, and then it actually went on to off choke idling, and the rear cylinder was, the exhaust pipe was getting hot, but it wasn't getting as hot as the front, so I think there was a bit of, you know, it was fire in the back cylinder as well. So the compression came up to 100 when it was a little bit warmer. So the lady said that it got really hot one day and the fans hadn't come on. The temperature was right into the red, and she just switched it off and left it to cool down, and since then it hasn't run right. So I've got to figure out, you know, is it something to do with the overheating or is it something else? So when I first went out to have a look at it, it was, you know, missing screws and things like that. Nothing that would cause the issue. The spark plugs that are in it are, you know, not in the best of condition. Sorry if I get in the camera. So they're old. They look like they've, you know, they've been in a little while. The front one's actually dirtier. Anyway, so I hate to sort of like guarantee work that will be fixed and things like that, so I just said to her that all I can do is attempt to fix it. I can't tell you what happened unless it's obvious, so it's sort of like not really running on the rear cylinder, so we all already know that this engine might need some work doing to it. So I warned her that if it's anything to do with the piston, the cylinder, the mating surface of the head, that's going to start being quite high in terms of cost of repair. Another thing I pointed out was that these were fitted, so that's a manual cam chain tensioner. Quite a common thing on these bikes is for the front cam chain tensioner to fail, and the cam chain's got so much slack in it, it can actually either jump off the sprocket, or it can actually just, you know, the timing can go so far out, like almost like 90 degrees out, and then your piston and your valves get a little bit close. So I did notice that, and when I was out earlier, took this cover off just to have a little look. Warning signs already. There's silicone like oozing out of the seal. The cam chain was like so tight you couldn't move it on the sprocket. Sometimes when they're on the sprocket you can lift them a little bit because they've got, like, you know, they're not like super tight really, they're just under a little bit of tension. So on this you couldn't budge it, it was so tight, and I feel like, you know, the battery's actually quite a good one, so it's actually cranking over very slowly as well, so I think those cam chains are way too tight. So I said to her, look, I'm not gonna mess about. I'm gonna put on automatic cam chain tensioners. I'm not gonna refit these back on the bike. So the plan is to find out what's wrong with it, see if it's fixable, contact her, and then tell her what the plan is. And, you know, we've got a decent amount of budget to play with. She seems to think that she can get a decent one of these for 1,500. That's what they seem to sell for at the minute. So if it can be repaired for something around that sort of money, she's happy to go for it. I mean, there is other issues with the bike. there's a little oil leak around the back. Some of the wiring looks a little bit, you know, it's in a bad state of repair. And also we've got to address the heating thing as well, so I can't forget about that. The fan does work, but it's either the thermostat's gone and stuck shut, or the sensor on the other side of the radiator on the bottom there. That's the sensor there, I'll show you. There. So that could be failed as well. So yeah, we'll make a start. My first plan is to check the valve clearances and then check the timing, the cam timing, and then go from there. Okay, so the next stage, check the cam timing. So I've got in this window, I've got it set up with it saying RT. It's hard to get a good angle on it. So RT. So we might be. So come round to the right side of the bike. It should be rear intake. Yeah, rear intake should be level with that. Awkward on these, but you can get, well, you can get something flat basically and put it across the back there, but we're looking for E, sorry, is it E? Yeah, RE. So as long as those sort of line up, hard to say without, this is obviously a frame in the way, but you want a line across both of them and they both look, yeah, so they're spot on. I've checked the valve clearances. I haven't measured them, but I've just basically slipped a 0.1 feeler gauge in, and it passes under all of them. So it doesn't matter if the two loops at this stage. So we know that on this cylinder, the valves are in spec, as in the valve clearances, and the timing's fine. So that covers off quite a few things. So the next thing is to try and figure out why we're losing compression. So there's a head bolt down there which is covered in oil. There's a head bolt here, and then there's one there. I think that's all there is on these. No, sorry, there's 5. There's one there. There's one around the back there as well, so 4, sorry, 6, one there, one there, one there, and then 3 at the other side. So I have to get the carbs off now, and then the cylinder head can come off. Right, so to get the carbs off, there's a front water hose to remove, camshafts, then head bolts. There's 2 M6 and then 6 head bolts, exhaust clamp. Exhaust is a bit tight on the head, so on this one the exhaust clamp is stuck because someone's rounded off the bolts. So hopefully I can get this out in one go, so I'll try that first. So I've got it freed up now, so I just have to try and get it off the dowels, off the exhaust at the same time. So caught on the cam chain, there we go. That's it, one cylinder head off. So we're still lined up for rear top, and that is where the piston is. It's going to remove the head gasket, which is first thing to check, I suppose. tight on that door. There you go. Past. Okay, so the head gasket hasn't got any damage on it. So what I'm curious about is, why is this piston below the deck? I mean, I can't remember if they're supposed to be down that much. I mean, it's quite far down, if you know what I mean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crank the engine with the cam chain out of the way. I don't know if I can put the camera somewhere to film it. It's still there. Right, I'll try and hold the cam chain up and turn it at the same time. See if there's anything unusual. Okay, so the cylinder looks perfect, really. Nothing wrong with that at all. So the next question is it supposed to come right to the top of the cylinder, or is that completely fine? Yeah, that's top dead centre. It won't go any higher than that, so there is a bit of a drop there. If I had to guess, I'd say it's like 1 to 2 mil. Anyway, onto the head. So everything looks okay, I guess. I've put the plug in just because I'm going to fill up the cylinder, see if we've got any leaks with the valves. Then we're going to have to see if there's any warpage with this cylinder head. So I'll do that next. I'll just put a bit of petrol in there, just to see if we've got any issues with the valves. That doesn't look very good. I don't know what that is. If I had to guess, I would say that's some sort of leak fix. It's solid. I think it's solid, so it's just bad casting. So I'm looking for any sort of leaks down the intake, on the back of the valves and all. Right, you can see this exhaust is very wet. So yeah, it's leaking the exhaust. The exhaust valves are leaking quite a lot, actually. I mean, so I'd put the low compression down to that, and I've had a look. Like, I haven't got a proper straight edge, but I've got a straight edge from you know, a mitre gauge, and it's pretty flat. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with this head. You know, you can go all the way from this edge to that edge, and that edge to that edge, and it's, you know, it's not rocking, and it's not got any gaps. Probably check it properly, but for now it's just the exhaust valves that are leaking. Might be able to see which ones, if any, is worse. So that's the can't quite see really. Let's tilt it up so I get a better look. Doesn't show up on camera, but the pair of them look like they're both leaking equally, which is something, I suppose. So what I'll probably end up doing is take the valves out, have a look at them, see if there's any issues with them, and then resealing. And then check everything else, and that's it. Right, so I've got some new valves, exhaust valves to replace the bent ones. So I've also got some new valve stem seals. The different part numbers for exhaust and intake, so we should get the right ones. That's the old one out. So just want to make sure there's nothing left over. Bit of plastic. Bit of oil doesn't hurt. For a long time I'd put these in with like a socket or something, but if you get one of these tools, they're not too expensive really. You get them. They've got adapters for different sizes of valve. It seems like these are made for cars really, because they're all quite big, so the small engines you can't use this tool. So that's it, it just pops it on. And you've got to make sure the valve seat is on there too. So I'll just put the other one on. Not sure if it's true with bikes, but on cars you used to, if you put in the wrong seals on the exhaust, they would often leak. I used to fit the genuine parts on the cars, just to make sure really, but I did have one instance where I put on some aftermarket ones and there was a lot of leaking pretty soon after install. This is the toolkit that I've got. As you can see, it starts at 5mm, goes up to 8, but a lot of small bike engines, they have really small valves, so this is only good for big bikes. So that's the exhaust valves lapped in now. I've just installed the camshafts and just gone through, checked the valve clearance, the within spec, even new valves, 70,000 mile head cams, and they don't need any adjustments, so that's good. I'm just coming to fit the Honda, the debated Honda cam chain tensioner. I'm fitting these, and they've got numbers on, and I'd never really picked up on this before. So we've got 1 and 2 there. Number 1's the rear cylinder, and if we compare the difference between the two, I didn't think there was any difference between, you know, front and rear, but there must be. They've got, see how this one's got a pin there, vertical, and it's sort of in line that way, and on this one it's the opposite. Well, it's 90 degrees out, so the pin is across the two holes. This one. So if we pick up the rear one, so this one would be sitting in this sort of position on the bike, you know, facing the back of it would be facing down. So what I've always thought is the rear cylinder, this gets full of oil all the time, so That's why the rear ones don't tend to fail as much as the front, because the front one, it's the opposite, it's actually facing down over like that, so they never get any real amount of oil inside. And if you break these down, they've got a very, very thin, light spring to unwind itself, and the way that they lock is almost, it's quite funny actually, because there's no ratchet inside this. That's it fully extended. Now what I've always found is, like, when you take them off an old bike, they're usually halfway, if not more. So it'll be interesting to see, because I'm going to put new cam chains on this bike and new tensioners, and we'll see how far this comes out. So, you know, when you put this in, you can usually see how far it sticks out, you know, inside the hole. So the next job will be to split the cam chain and put the new chains on.